Wherever you're listening in the world, it's a pleasure to welcome you to IsraelCast, the podcast powered by Jewish National Fund USA, your voice in Israel. I'm Stephen Shalowitz. First, reminding you that for over 120 years, Jewish National Fund USA has been the premier philanthropic movement for the land and people of Israel. While best known for planting trees in Israel, JNF USA contributes to Israeli life in so many ways, including community development in the Negev and the Galilee, preservation of heritage sites, supporting people with disabilities, connecting high school and college students to Israel, and supporting our brothers and sisters in need following the heinous October 7th terrorist attack. To learn more and to see how you can contribute, do visit jnf.org. Once again, jnf.org. Plus, if you haven't done so already, do subscribe, rate, and review us. 5 stars, of course. Wherever you get your podcast, it's so easy. Simply search for IsraelCast. And of course, we'd love it too if you shared the show within your orbit. All right, as for this episode, we're coming to you from JNF House, where our featured guest is Michael Rapaport, actor, comedian, podcaster, and ardent advocate on behalf of Israel and the Jewish people. Michael, welcome to IsraelCast. It's so great to have you aboard.
Thanks for having me.
All right, listen, there is certainly no shortage of topics to discuss when Michael Rapaport is indeed in the house. And I first want to ask you about this moment that we're living in right now, Michael, because you're a father. God willing, one day you'll be a grandfather. What would you like to share with your grandchildren, with future generations about this moment that we Jews are living in right now?
That's a really good question. It's a hard question to answer. Man, what would I like to share? I mean, there's so much. It's really, it's everything. It's everything. It's the good, the bad, the ugly, the heartbreak. It's the highs, the lows. It's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. If I was gonna take a crayon box, you know, they have the 16 colors, they have the 24 colors. This is like the big chunky, 124 color box of crayons with all the colors, all the feelings, all the emotions. It's an incredible time to be Jewish. It's a invigorating time to be Jewish. I have to admit, although I don't like saying it, it's a scary time to be Jewish. But I think it's ultimately, I keep going back to just an incredibly impressive time to be Jewish. It's a life-changing time to be Jewish. How it's changing, where it's going, I think is TBD, to be determined. But I think it's a very, very special time. Where it ends up, I truly believe it'll end up in a better place. I think Jews in the diaspora will end up in the better place, and I pray and hope and do believe that Israel will end up in a better place.
So you're hopeful?
So. Extremely hopeful. Yeah. I think it's not even hopeful. I know for sure that across the board, being Jewish in Israel will wind up in a better place. We're going through something, like I said, that I can't say what the ending of the movie was or ending of the story was. There is no ending. There is no ending with Jews in Israel. It's never ending. But as far as like how this moment in time, how this 15 months will end up, I don't know, but I think the remnants of it will be better at the end of it. But it's been tough, There's so much heartbreak, so much life-changing situations. The stories we know about, the stories we don't know about. Your story, my story, everybody's collectively. I think it's affected everybody in a different way.
Indeed, I mean, you fortunately have been very outspoken in support of Israel and the Jewish people. Deborah Messing has, Jerry Seinfeld has, Patricia Heaton, who isn't Jewish, has, and there are others. And so we salute you and all those that have been outspoken. Yet there have been so many people in the entertainment world that have either A, been silent, or B, have been very much outspoken on behalf of Hamas. And so I'm just wondering, as someone in the entertainment world, Michael, do you have conversations with those people that have vastly different views than you? And what are those conversations even like?
To be honest, I haven't had conversations with anybody whose view is vastly different. And the silence has been beyond deafening. The pro-Hamas ignorance has been disappointing, to say the least. I thought that this award season, as we head into the Hollywood award season, we just had the Grammys. We had a couple of award shows. Golden Globes was very quiet. Obviously, with the fires in California, it's something that needs to, be spoken about. But with these Grammys, again, fires need to be discussed. But again, we're going into another year of either ignorant pro-Hamas sympathizers or, every other thing. The Grammys the other night, they talked about a lot of issues. They talked about LGBTQ, fantastic. They talked about, people's rights within the music business, fantastic. But still, there hasn't been one person. There was one girl, I don't know her, who talked about it. But it's been extremely disappointing that Hollywood and the music business, artists, I'm going to say Hollywood, artists who have traditionally spoken up about everything, not one person in my business, not one person in the music business has spoken up at the very least about the girls that were held hostage, the girls and women that are still being held hostage, about the Bibas family that has gone through hell, and we still have no certainty as of the recording of this podcast. It's been extremely disappointing, frustrating, and infuriating because, like I said, people speak out about every single thing under the sun. And it's very pro women, women's pay, black women's pay, and there hasn't been a statement on mic about what the Jews and Israel's gone through.
I consume a lot of entertainment, and I have found that since October 7th, I've had real difficulty divorcing the actress that is on screen with their politics. I don't know, for example, if you watch Bridgerton or not.
Yes.
But the woman that plays Penny,
yes,
the Irish actress, yes, whose name escapes me right now, who's very, very pro-Hamas, let's put it that way.
That's what I call it. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, and so I actually had about 3 episodes to go until the end of the season, and I couldn't bring myself to watch it because I, again, just couldn't divorce myself from that. And I'm just wondering your experience, if you're able to, again, separate the actor or the musician, for example, from their work. And also just in more broad brushstrokes, Michael, this whole notion of cancel culture. I mean, is it incumbent on someone like me that enjoys entertainment to say, you know what, I don't want to pay my good money to those people when their politics are just so fundamentally different from my own?
You ask me a lot. I never have thought or been offended to the core that I've been offended to in regards to separating church and state, art and the artist, messenger and the message. But I will say now, I know these people. I know them in real life. Not all of them. If I don't know them, it's 1 degree. But I can speak better on the music industry from art and artists. Sure. Because the actors, I know them. And without going into specific details and naming names, because I think I say enough. In regards to the actors and the directors, they have been an embarrassment to themselves. They've been an embarrassment to themselves because a lot of them come off very, they're soft-spoken and they're artists and they're, mercurial, and they come off like thinkers, and they wear glasses, and, they're clean, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking. I could curse here, right?
Yeah.
You could beep it or not beep it.
You already did.
Right. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because if you know the story and you understand the story and you've really done some true 360-degree research, you wouldn't be wearing a fucking pin celebrating terrorists. You wouldn't be wearing that red handprint pin. That's a celebration of murderer and murder of doesn't matter what kind. but it is celebration of Jewish blood. That's what that is. So if you really knew what you were talking about, you wouldn't wear that. The music people, because like I have separation from them because I don't know them. Like I know the actors and directors. And yeah, at times I've had to make, I don't give a fuck about this person. Fuck this person. You judge them and you don't want to listen to their shit. Whether it's like say supporting or not, but it's like, I don't want to listen. Like now I know what you're about. Now I know what you stand for. It has been frustrating. And it has been something that I've had to think about. And I never really had to think about it before. And, then I have to think about, like, myself. Like, I speak about a lot of things, politically, socially, pro-Jewish, pro-Zionist. And I know that there's possibly, people that don't want to hear my shit. And that's up to them. That's up, but speaking for myself, it's been for the first time where like I do judge their politics, and I'm like, are you going to say something? Are you not going to say something? Oh, this film, well, you got Holocaust survivors. You're not going to say the word Jewish. You're not going to, come on, man. You just did a movie about it. Now you don't want to say it. The thing is that not the thing. One of the things that I do know is that everybody has a different way to fight. Like I'm outspoken. Some people that particular specific actors, that people ask me about, Jewish actors, I think that they do things a little bit quieter or behind the scenes. Yes, when we're under siege, I think it would be nice to say something. Some of the messages that people put out, they're pro-Israel, pro-Jewish stuff, it gets lost. Some people want them to say something every day, whether it's this podcaster, this actor, this person. And people have a right to articulate themselves the way they want to articulate themselves. I don't know if it's more disappointing or as disappointing of the people that are celebrating or supporting Hamas and terrorism, and the lack of support for the women and the Americans that are still being held hostage as we record this podcast, when you speak out about everything else. It would be one thing if you never said anything about anything, but you've spoken out as a community about everything else, and you got nothing to say about this because it might be complicated. It ain't complicated if you do a little bit of research.
And where do you think that comes from, this reticence to really speak out? And I'm not saying from the Jewish entertainers, but even from the people that aren't Jewish, that aren't so Israel engaged, because again, they'll take up the cause of the Boko Haram girls, for example, or they'll take up all these other causes.
Every other thing under the sun.
Exactly. That they have absolutely no connection with. And so, from what place does that come, do you think, Michael?
I think it comes from, unfortunately, I was never this person. I think a lot of it comes from not liking, not respecting, and having disdain for Jews. And I didn't want to be this person, but the silence is deafening. That you'll speak out about anything and everything under the sun that you think is cool, acceptable, and not this. And fear. It's twofold.
Fear for what?
Fear for, I don't know what the fuck. You've spoken out about everything else. You're not going to say anything about two beautiful little babies that are being held captive. You're not going to say anything about women that are being held hostage. You're not going to say anything about the fact that Israel's been under attack for 500 days now. Fortunately now we're at a quiet point, and hopefully it'll stay for 400 plus days. There's so many different things you could speak on. You saw the footage. Everyone saw the footage, and there's no context that needs to be explained when you see that footage. But when it comes to Jews, it comes to Israel, everything gets more complicated, and it's bullshit because it's anti-Jewish and it's fearful, and it's a bunch of it's a bunch of excuses and explaining, and there is no explaining for that.
And, I'm glad you brought up the word Zionism just a
Yes.
moment ago, because that word has been hijacked
Completely.
by the other side. I mean, fortunately, Jewish National Fund has been at the forefront of reclaiming the word Zionism. Jewish National Fund is building the whole Zionist village right now in Beersheba. I mean, to really reclaim the beauty, the inclusivity of Zionism, and to bring Zionists all together under one roof. And I'm just wondering, how do you begin to even reclaim the notion of what Zionism is all about?
When people say, is there a Zionist on the train, you raise your fucking hand. When there's anti-Zionist encampments on schools, you figure out a way to make sure they get taken down by any means necessary. When people say you're a Zionist, you go, that's right. Yeah.
And you explain what it is.
I explain what it is, or I don't explain what it is. You don't even need to explain it, or you can't explain it. Whatever you want to do at the time, at that moment, you say, thank you. 100, yes, I am a Zionist. Loud and fucking proud. I am a full-blown Zionist. 150%. Yes, this is our word. This is our way of life. It is our way of thinking, our way of spiritually, physically connecting to and reclaiming, Israel from the jump street and protecting it going forward.
So, Michael, as I said at the top of the show, you're an actor and you're also a comedian.
Yes.
You're also a podcaster, which we're going to get to as well, fellow podcaster
Yes.
here. You've been on for 10 years. Congratulations, but we'll get to that in a sec. As a comedian, I'm just wondering, what role do you really think humor has in tough times?
It's of the utmost importance to laugh, to give ourselves the time to laugh, to give ourselves the space to laugh, to not feel guilty about laughing. I think Jewish humor in particular is so iconic, from back to the vaudeville, through the stuff in upstate New York,
The Borscht Belt.
the Borscht Belt, to all the great Jewish comedians, to Jerry Seinfeld, to from the Mel Brooks. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. I think dark humor is something that we relish in. Are some of our greatest Jewish moments in comedy are dark and cynical. I personally, at the beginning of 2024, we're now in the beginning of 2025. I was having a tough time even allowing myself to laugh. I wasn't having a tough time to allow myself to enjoy the mundane. Reality TV, sports. I felt guilty and overwhelmed, when I wasn't, focused on the task at hand, which is freeing the hostages and getting and allowing Israel to be a sovereign state. But I had to, and also performing, because when I was performing, I felt like, is this right? How can I perform when so many of our people are suffering? So many of our people are struggling and fighting to stay alive. But speaking to people and speaking to my wife and speaking to IDF soldiers and speaking to my friends and in Israel, they encourage, you have to keep going. You have to keep, trying to make people laugh. And, I was fortunate to do 2 shows in October of 2024 in Israel. And I was contemplating canceling them. Is it appropriate to make, to try to make people laugh? And inevitably people were like, you can't cancel your shows. You have to come and do the shows. And it's of the utmost importance to do that. And so humor is of the utmost importance. For us, it's something that, we helped create sketch comedy, and we've brought and done so much for our comedy. There's so many great comedians of the past and of the present. So I had to, give myself, make myself comfortable doing that. And, as I'm doing shows, I'm doing stand-up comedy shows, and I'm back on the road, I brought some of my experiences. And at first it was hard to, how do I make jokes of October 7th? But I think I found a good way to balance being respectful, genuine, and also bringing some comedy to it.
I was going to ask, what's the method to your madness, because I heard you at the JNF conference in Dallas in November 2024,
Yeah.
and you emceed the gala event. And I'm not just saying this because you're sitting across the table from me, but really kudos to you, because
Thank you.
I felt that you were not only funny, but you brought a sensitivity to the moment.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that?
I think you just be totally honest. I think, I just have to be as honest as I possibly can. I don't think I need anything in the sensitivity area. The trickier part is how do you breach the seriousness and jump from that to the comedy and the lightheartedness of it, and that you have to be a little bit more thoughtful about. At least I did, because we're still in it. We're not talking about the past. There's been so many movies and shows about the Holocaust that have poked fun at it in the best way, whether it's Inglourious Bastards, it's so extreme, or Dr. Strangelove, or so many things. Mel Brooks and Woody Allen have they make dark humor about it. We're still in it, so it's trickier to talk about it. But I feel like I've cracked it. At the beginning of cracking, how to find the humor in it.
Right. Well, speaking of your humor, we should share with our dear listeners and those watching via YouTube, yes, we do have our YouTube channel, that as we release this episode, you're starting a tour across the United States and Canada. So it's an international tour, let's say.
Yep.
San Diego, Philly, Stamford, Connecticut, Edmonton, your hometown of New York City. I'm always fascinated, Michael, by how people develop their craft. In other words, like for me as a podcaster, I come up with questions while I'm on the Stairmaster. I keep them in my head, then when I get home, I write them down, right? And so I'm just wondering, for you, how do you create a show? How does that work for you? And where are the jokes, the whatever you want to share, if you will, on stage, where does that all come from?
Well, definitely, if I was on the Stairmaster, which I should be on more.
Should we share with our listeners that we have Dunkin' Donuts here for you?
Yes.
And you very graciously declined them.
Well, because it's middle of the day, and if I'm a Dunkin' guy, and I am a Dunkin' guy, I mean, who isn't good? I love Dunkin', I love Dunkin' Donuts, I love all sorts of muffins and all those things. I try to do it earlier in the day.
So next time we'll record first thing in the morning.
Yes, I'll
Noted.
stuff my face on camera
Noted.
for all the people. But it could be any time. It could be in the shower. It could be, on walks. We were talking about, the beauty and the blessing of walking through Central Park, winter, spring, summer, and snow. A lot of times it'll be, when I'm walking. A lot of times it'll be, when I'm laying down before I go to sleep, and I'll, write something down or think about something. It comes anytime, and, I try to, stay creative and try to, doing comedy specifically is such a specific thing. It's such a never-ending sort of jigsaw puzzle. And my approach to comedy is it has to come from a genuine place. I feel like the best things that I do on stage while I'm performing are the things that are totally genuine and they come from a real place. And I think I haven't gotten to, perfect it. I think the thing about comedy is that it's why people are so obsessive about it. The great comedians, they talk about the obsessiveness of it, is because there is no touchdown. You'll get a great laugh, you'll get a great bit, but there's more. And because it's a thing that comes from your mind, you can do it till the wheels fall off. It's not sports, and you can, as long as you have a microphone and a voice and thoughts and ideas, I think it's an endless thing, and I think that's why. Like I said, when you hear the great ones talk about how they come up with stuff, and I'm not putting myself as the great ones, it's something that you're obsessive about.
And what about crowd work? I always really admire a great comedian when they're up there and they just start asking the crowd questions and then they get that feedback. What's that like?
I love doing that. It's fun. It's totally unpredictable. It's you don't know where or when or how it's going to end up. I think the crowds like to see it because they know that it's spontaneous and they know that it's real and it's a tangible sort of. It's like doing a magic trick, but you don't really know when the rabbit or if the rabbit is going to be pulled out of the hat. So the thing about crowd,
or how many rabbits,
or if the rabbit's going to be an angry rabbit or an upset rabbit or a friendly rabbit, or you don't know what rabbit's coming if you do in fact pull it out of the hat. So I think, I like doing that. I think sometimes people could lean on it too much, but I think people that come to see shows, come to see my shows, or any comedy shows, they enjoy it. I think it's fun.
And for tickets, folks can go to michaelrapaportcomedy.com. Once again, michaelrapaportcomedy.com. And there's links to all the shows in the different cities that I just said.
Yep.
San Diego, Philly, Stamford, Connecticut, Edmonton, and New York. So you have Edmonton there. Are Canadian crowds different than American crowds, Michael?
Toronto was pretty chill. They feel like, like East Coast. I think they're a little bit... I find the times that I performed in Canada, I would say they're a little bit more polite. Not that the shows...
Is it the same show, essentially?
No show is exactly the same, but I think, it's just a vibe you get. A vibe you get from the crowd. Alcohol is allowed worldwide. So, that sometimes can, change the politeness. But I feel like in Canada, people are a little... Just where I perform, and I don't know Canada very well. I perform in the cities. They're a little bit more polite, which I like. I like polite. Polite's good.
And then the New York crowd must be...
New York crowds are always good. It depends on what kind of New Yorkers, because, you could get, a very Manhattan crowd. Then there's the people from the boroughs are, going to be a little bit more rough and tumble. But, for me, when I'm doing shows in New York, that's like home turf. I'm so comfortable with New Yorkers. We speak the exact same language. There is no cliff notes. So New Yorkers are great. But, I think in general, the politeness or lack of politeness, I think that comes from the time of the show. Alcohol is definitely a factor. But, I haven't had any, people ask about heckling or all that kind of stuff. I haven't had much of that when I'm doing comedy. Because I think that stuff could come, you might have somebody who's just nuts or drunk or nuts. But in general, it's really you have to let people know you're the boss and you're the teacher and this is what the program for the day is going to be. This is what we're discussing and this is how it's going to be discussed. And I have the microphone and I'm the professional. And I think when people see that and understand that, you'll have a good show.
Years and years ago, when I lived in Singapore, I used to host a radio show, and one of the guests that I had was Dionne Warwick. Mm-hmm. And I, apart from asking her if she ever found the way to San Jose, which she gave me a wonderful answer to, I asked her what she thinks about when she's on stage. And she said, Stephen, when I'm on stage doing a set, about the only thing that I'm thinking about are the next lyrics that I have to sing.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering, when you're up on stage, are you thinking of that next joke that you're going to tell, or do you rearrange jokes, or do you come up with things on the spot? How does that work for you, Michael?
That's a good question. When I'm performing, when I'm doing stand-up comedy, I think you're very much in the moment. In between jokes, in between bits, in between rants or riffs, that's when I kind of might think about, what's next, or if I'm going down the right, sort of lane or alley, and what kind of energy I have, what kind of energy the crowd has, what's sort of working, what's sort of not working. Sometimes crowds don't want to be talked to, or the people in your that you could see, you could just feel like they just, I think sometimes that might have to do with the lighting. I feel like if crowds, if there's too much eye contact, I think that people get uncomfortable.
You mean eye contact from you?
Yes.
Because they think you're going to call them.
I don't know what it is. I feel like, so I don't like when the place is too lit, because if we're making too much eye contact, I feel like they might be shyer. And if they're sort of hidden, you could kind of see them or more feel them. I feel like they're more apt to be comfortable with me talking to them. And it also could be about, political or, tone, a vibe. It's just kind of a vibe of what you're feeling. And, as a performer, you're bringing so much of your own vibe. It could be, some nights you like, well, I suck, but it could be you're just in a shitty mood, or you're off, or you feel like you suck. And then sometimes, well, the crowd suck, but it might be like you suck. And sometimes crowds do stuff, or they could be quieter, even though it's a comedy show and the end goal to everything seems like it's a laugh. People could be having a good time. They just might not be as energized as another crowd. So all those things I'm thinking about, and I think you're sort of orchestrating that through a show. The most important thing is to be engaged, and for me, I never lose sight that it is a show. And people have so many opportunities to do so many different things, especially in 2025, whether it's scrolling on their phone, watching this, that, or the third, sleeping, eating, going out, that when they come to see me, I am very, very aware that I am there to put on some sort of a show. That is of the utmost priorities, that they leave having a good time and an entertaining time, because it's a comedy show, and at the end of the day, you are there to bring some sort of a feeling of lightness to them.
And again, going back to the shows that you did in Israel, the audiences, I would imagine, were just incredibly, incredibly grateful for you to be there.
And I was grateful for them to be there. Those two shows, they weren't perfect shows, but they were incredible shows.
And where were they?
One was in Jerusalem and one was in Tel Aviv. And it was a total, true honor and a blessing to do those shows.
Why do you say they weren't perfect?
Because no show's perfect. And I feel like they were perfect. They were perfect for what they were supposed to be. Just because, you're like, oh, well, I wish I had articulated it. So because there's also a little bit of language in Jerusalem. There was a little bit of a language. And I was nervous. I was nervous because, of the circumstances being there in October. It was the week after October 7th.
You're talking about 2024.
Yeah. And you just want to give the best show possible, because you're there performing in front of your people, and people, it's so one degree of separation of what people are going through and what they've gone through. So I felt a burden, and I felt that I wanted to be at my very, very best, and I think if people, they probably said it was a great show. I wanted to give everything I possibly could to the crowds of Israel.
Israeli comedians are hysterically funny.
Yes, they're very funny, and when I'm able to get it translated, I see, I think Jewish humor in general is going to be dark.
Yeah, especially in this moment.
Yeah, we got to laugh at ourselves.
Are you getting material based on this moment that we're living in right now?
Yes.
Yes. Like what? I don't expect you to tell a joke or anything, but
just
of
what
topic?
My sort of point of view of it, and my point of view of it, my sort of Judaism now, a lack of as a kid, a lack of in my family, because we're sort of bagel, cream cheese, and lox Jews, which is not a bad kind of Jew. It's a specific kind of Jew, especially to New York. And sort of my sort of catharsis, as a pre bar mitzvah kid, as a 10, 11-year-old, and as to where I am now, I'm very aware of it. I get the humor in it, and I try to bring it, and I try to articulate it. And I think, even my friends in Chabad, I have a friend, a rabbi friend of mine, Moti, and he's like, did you ever think you'd be having a kosher meal with a rabbi, and you wouldn't have thought that 3 years ago. Like, we laugh about that because I think it, I understand the humor in that.
So this moment has created a greater sense, it sounds to me, like, of your Jewishness and of your identity.
100% isn't enough. 100%. My awareness, my spirituality, my religious point of view, it is changed ginormously. There has been, a series of things, with my wife, personally, what I've seen going on in the world before October 7th, and all those things had me ready to stand, fight, be open and understanding of everything post October 7th. As a lot of people, October 7th was the tipping point for a lot of people in the best ways. But there was, stuff leading up to it, personally. And also, like as a kid, even though I wasn't practicing as much, there were certain things that were said that led me and that have continued to lead me to today and going forward. And and my trips to Israel obviously were, I've been fortunate to go 5 times in the last year, and those have had a tremendous impact on me. So all those things, how I was raised, my wife, and what was been going on in the world have led me to right now.
Well, let's face it. I mean, spirituality is a journey.
Yeah.
It really
yes,
is.
Yes.
For everybody.
Yes.
Really. Oh, so speaking of Israel and going, I understand you met our dear friend Yedidia.
Yes.
Yedidia Harush. Isn't he just a rock star?
Unbelievable. And his story.
From Chalutza.
Crazy. And hearing just a little bit of life, a little bit about his life, I was just like, what the fuck? Like it's crazy. Like a movie. It feels like a movie, like his life. And,
as they say, you can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't make that stuff up. So, yeah, that was really, really nice to be able to meet him and stay in contact with him. And I'm looking forward to, meeting him in Israel and seeing, where he's from in the community in real life.
Yeah, in Chalutza. Well, say hello when you do see him.
100%.
He's been a guest here on the program, so we love our Yedidia. I want to talk about your podcast for a second. I am Rapaport Stereo Podcast. Congratulations on 10 years.
Thank you.
I've been doing this show for 8 years. My
Nice.
other, the One Way Ticket Show, for 13 years. So I so know what it means to be doing a podcast for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And we should also share with our listeners and our viewers that as we record this, you have almost 1,200 episodes under your belt, which is no easy feat. Let me just say that first and foremost. So when I listen to your show, I say to myself, wow, Michael is really passionate. He knows a lot about a lot of things. And I think Michael should run for some kind of public office. And I can't imagine that I'm not the only one that has said that to you.
No, you're not the only one that has said that to me. It has loosely crossed my mind. I don't even know where to start or what would be the most impactful. If I was to do it, I would want to do it to impact, first and foremost, Jewish people. So I'd have to figure out and understand what's the what would be the most impactful way to do it. People have suggested, this or that in Israel, and people have suggested this or that in New York. I'd have to really continue to educate myself on what would be the most impactful way. In the meantime, I just try to hold these politicians, all of them, all their feet to the fire with my platform and my voice, and try to push, squeeze, celebrate, shame, whatever needs to be done to make sure that we are taken care of.
And I'm not going to backpedal by saying you should run for office. However, I find that sometimes when you have a platform, you can achieve even more than when you have an elected office.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
And that's what's really what you're doing with your podcast.
Yeah. I try to. The rants that people see, whether they're specifically about the hostages, speaking on their behalf, reposting, posting, not forgetting to urge people, what I'm thinking about, what I'm not thinking about. I never really think about the outcome of social media. When I do rants, whether they're totally mundane about sports or more serious, I wish there was a special secret sauce that I had or understood. I just try to do my thing, speak from the bottom of my heart, and I put it out there. Algorithms, I don't know how they work. I don't think anybody knows how they work. I've met people at different platforms. No one seems to have there's no sort of formula. You could try this, you could try that, and tag this person, and hashtag this, and don't do this and do that and stay away from this and don't stay away from that. I just try to, I just do it from, like I just go.
Well, the algorithm gods, I think, clearly love you, Michael.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes they don't love me.
Someone's looking out for you
in
that algorithm universe up there. But I do love the fact that you are authentic, at least. I mean,
that's one thing for sure.
Right. I mean, I was listening to one episode, I guess several episodes ago, and you were talking about the United Nations and how they should use it as a practice ground for the New York Knicks or the Rangers, for example.
Shut it down.
And so, I mean, you're authentic in your points of view.
They should shut down the United Nations and open up a practice facility for the New York Knicks and New York Rangers. I feel like the Knicks and the Rangers, they both are New York iconic teams. They're not in New York City, and the United Nations is a corrupt piss hole. It needs to either be shut down completely or completely revamped. I support United States. I know that we can't ever get out of it because I think it's like, even as flawed as it is, we have to be a part of it. But if the United States did step away from it completely, I would understand it. But like I said, I think it's too important to abandon it completely. But like UNRWA, I hope other countries do follow suit. They shouldn't get another nickel from the United States or any other country. It should be shut down. It's a fucking corrupt piss hole, dump hole, and one of the top 5 reasons why I think Hamas is still in existence.
Unfortunately, we have Elise Stefanik as ambassador now to the United Nations.
Love her. Inspiring. Love her.
Yeah. And what she did to those college presidents.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Terrific. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. Fierce. Tough. Smart. Composed. And truly iconic. What she did was iconic, and the way she did it was iconic.
Michael, just a couple of the bases before we push off, because I'm super mindful of your time. You mentioned that over the last year you were in Israel, you said 5 times,
yeah.
I believe you said. Just out of curiosity, because I don't know, when was your first time ever in Israel?
December of 2024.
Your first time in Israel?
Yeah, it's 2025 now, right?
So you had never gone sort of as a teenager or as a young adult?
Never went, no. And my wife and I were planning a trip. Or was it November? I don't know. I can't remember.
It was the end of November. It was the end of 2024 is
yes.
what you're saying.
Yes, and
so
my wife and I
were just talking a couple months ago.
Yeah, a year ago.
Wait, 2023 then, you mean?
We're 2023, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2023. Man, the time is taking on a weird thing.
Listen, I'm still writing 2012 on my checks.
I know.
Okay, so...
Yeah, it was 2023. Sorry about that.
So it was right after the terrorist attack.
Yeah. And my wife and I...
Was that what precipitated then you to go?
100%. And we were going to go, and then October 7th happened, and we were like, you can't go. And then we were like, we must go. We must go. And as disturbing as what I saw in Israel that first trip, it was equally inspiring. And I don't like to use broad spectrum sort of generic terms, but it was totally life-changing. And it was an incredible trip. All the trips have been incredible. That first trip obviously was startling in a lot of ways, and taking on a lot of different things and seeing a lot of different things for the very first time. But I, as much time as I missed in the first part of my life in Israel, and understanding Israel, I have no doubt that myself and my wife will make up for that time, in the second half of my life.
Was there one moment in particular that was a bit of a sort of light bulb moment for you when you were there? Or was it one big light bulb moment?
It was one big light bulb moment. As soon as I got off the plane in Tel Aviv, and we were driving to the hotel, and it was like 5 a.m, and we were driving by Hostage Square, and there was no one out there. I said, we got to get out. We went out at 5:30 in the morning. It was, dark out, and seeing everything in real life. And then that first day, shooting Deretz, a show which we were making fun of, spoofing the Elise Stefanik hearings, because not spoofing her, spoofing the context part of it, and it was weird because on Saturday Night Live, they made her seem like the crazy one. They made fun of her, and she's the fucking hero. And on Eretz, we did it right. We did it the right way, and we poked fun at the entire the faculty and the context this and the context that. And that first day, from going to Hostage Square to shooting that, and then going to Kibbutz Be'eri, this is in the first day. It was just like and walking through Be'eri and seeing what I saw, and smelling what I smelled and hearing what I heard that first day, was, and everything since, the conversations with survivors, the conversations with the soldiers, the conversations with the Shuva brothers who have been down there from day one, the conversations to the regular people in the hotel, at the cafes, and everything since have just been such a blessing and a mitzvah, and a life-changing experiences, conversations, and relationships I've had the opportunity to have on those trips. And I'm itching and dying to go back, and I'm planning on going back now in April of 2025. 2025, yeah. I can't wait.
Right.
I can't wait.
Are you doing shows there or just as a visitor?
We might do a show, but I'm going as a visitor first, and everything, maybe we'll do a show. I'm talking about maybe doing a show, but that's not I want to go because I need to go.
I know. It's a draw, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah. It's
an incredible, incredible, incredible place with incredible people. So special. And, people say, like, they'll talk about New York and the people, or you'll talk about wherever and the people. Israel, first and foremost, it's the people. It's the history and all that stuff, but the people are what you come away. There's the food, and you see this and you see that, but it's the people. There's something about the people of Israel that are so special.
Completely agree. Listen, as we wind down our conversation, this is going to be round one of our conversation with Michael Rapaport. So still lots more to cover, but I want to ask you, as we really wind down our conversation right now, about your advice for people to become active and to really speak out as advocates. What is your recommendation, Michael? Because certainly I think there are a lot of people that want to channel their inner Michael Rapaport, but not everybody feels comfortable doing that. So what's your advice for the college student, or for the office worker, or for anybody that's listening, to really become an advocate for Israel and the Jewish people?
I think to become an advocate, number one, there's many different ways to fight or to advocate. I do it the way I do it. You do it the way you do it. Everybody has their own style, their own comfort zone, their own way of speaking, not speaking, reading, posting, not posting. Number one, first and foremost, is to continue to educate yourself, and understand what it means to be Jewish, understand truly what it means to be a Zionist, understand our history, celebrate it. You can, like all Israelis do, you can be critical of things in Israel. Nothing is perfect about anything, whether it's New York, whether it's Central Park, whether it's the United States government. You can be critical of all those things, but be proud, stay close to Jews, celebrate your Judaism, and students, what it means to be Jewish is changing in the world moment by moment. And when you're asked how you feel, what it means, are you a Zionist, are you Jewish, be prepared to have those answers ready, and be prepared to answer them with pride and joy, and all the incredible colors of what it means to be Jewish, because it's a magnificent, magical, special time, like I said at the beginning, to be Jewish. And advocate, first and foremost, advocate, within yourself first. Go to Shabbat, celebrate, and give yourself little, Jewish goals. A rabbi friend of mine, he was like, saying to me, he goes, you never have to be, fully. I don't expect you to be fully practicing. It would be great if you are, but he said, give yourself little, goals. Read the Torah. Have a kosher meal. Have a kosher day. Because it ain't a touchdown. You're never going to be, perfect. It's not making a 3-point shot or a free throw. So to just give yourself little goals and to try to reach them. But most important, to never forget that we are going nowhere and Israel is going nowhere. The Jews are going nowhere and Israel is going nowhere.
And on that note, we're going to leave it right there. Michael Rapaport, this has been so inspiring. We want to thank you so much.
You guys are inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate what you guys do, so much. What JNF has done and what it's going to continue to do. And I'm proud to be here on the podcast.
Oh, listen, we can't wait to have you back for round 2. And maybe we'll do it before you go to Israel, after you go to Israel.
Anytime.
But I got to tell you, I want to hear about that next trip to Israel.
100%. And you guys are close, and you got the Dunkin' Donuts and the...
So we're going to do it in the morning next time.
Let's do it.
All right. Next time it's the morning for Michael. Once again, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll have info about Michael on the show notes page of this very episode on our website. Once again, it's jnf.org/IsraelCast. And if you want to see Michael in concert live on stage, I don't know why you wouldn't want to see Michael. Once again, go to michaelrapaportcomedy.com. Once again, michaelrapaportcomedy.com. As we release this episode, he's starting his tour. And so there's no better way of capturing this extraordinary man than indeed live on stage. So we do hope that you do catch him. Well, we'll have, as I said, info about Michael on the show notes page of this episode on our website, jnf.org/IsraelCast. And of course, we do release new episodes of the show every other Wednesday. We might even have some bonus episodes thrown in as well. And just so you never miss an episode, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search for IsraelCast. It's that easy. And once again, don't forget to rate and review us, 5 stars, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can always enjoy the show, of course, by listening to us on our website too, jnf.org/IsraelCast. And as I always say, it takes a whole shot to put IsraelCast together. For that, we thank Vivian Grossman, Stefan Oberman, J.D. Krebs, and Ellie Kadrin. Our editors are Jay Rothman and James Casada from Miratone Studios right here in the very heart of New York City. And the music that you hear at the top and tail of the program, if you're listening via podcast, is called My Eden. It's by the very talented Rafi Malkiel from his album Water on the Tzaddik label. IsraelCast is powered by Jewish National Fund USA, your voice in Israel. For more info about JNF USA, do visit jnf.org. And if you'd like to write to us with story ideas or just to say howdy, I know Michael would love to hear from you, wouldn't you, Michael?
Absolutely.
And so would yours truly. So do email us at israelcast@jnf.org. Once again, israelcast@jnf.org. Meantime, I'm Stephen Shalowitz, thanking you for tuning in and looking forward to having you join us on future episodes of IsraelCast.